is I want to know, in your opinion, in Lyn Alden's statements, what is Bitcoin? What is it?
So Bitcoin is a decentralized ledger, and I would describe it as basically the first decentralized ledger, the first and best one we have, which is, prior to the invention of Bitcoin, all ledgers were controlled by somebody, right? So a bank controls the ledger, the central bank controls the ledger that all banks use in that jurisdiction, and what Bitcoin was essentially it came along and introduced a decentralized ledger. Another way of thinking of it is that if you own shares of stock, right, that corporation uses another company called a transfer agent and registrar to keep track of who owns the shares, and it helps with facilitates the transfer of shares to other people, and of course that's a centralized entity. And what Bitcoin essentially is a decentralized transfer agent and registrar, or it's a decentralized settlement network, a decentralized ledger. And instead of being backed up by governance, instead of a central entity administering it, or some sort of quorum or federation administrating it, instead it uses energy to run. And the way that works essentially is that mining allows, it basically helps a bunch of different entities that don't know each other coordinate and order themselves and order the transactions on the blockchain, and basically impose this rule set that is very, very costly to attack or try to mess with. And then in addition, basically every individual can run a node as long as they have basic technology, like a basic laptop, some sort of something that's pretty common in the developed world, a little bit more challenging in the developing world, but essentially with pretty low hardware and internet needs, you can run your own node, and therefore you can initiate transactions without going through a centralized third party. You can receive transactions without going through a centralized third party. You can audit the state of the network. You help determine what is Bitcoin, right? Your node recognizes whether something is following the rules of the network or not. And that's why, for example, if there's a hard fork, a change in the rules, it doesn't get, your node does not propagate that transaction. It's just used as something that whatever it is, it's not Bitcoin. And so essentially it uses energy to coordinate the transfer of value. And what's neat about that is it means there's no nation state that controls it. There's no organization that controls it. It's not a security. That's why, for example, Gary Gensler, the SEC chairman, describes it as a commodity. That's a pretty consensus view, that it's essentially a commodity for tax and regulatory purposes. And essentially there's this ledger with scarce units attached. And another way of putting it is that in the United States, for example, a lot of us think of Visa. We pay with Visa. It's a quick transaction type. It's low cost. We can do little transactions. It's super fast. And Bitcoin is often compared to that. But that's actually not the right way of thinking about it, because all that Visa does, or MasterCard or PayPal, all these payment layers, they're sitting on top of a stack of different financial systems. And towards the bottom of that stack, for example, is Fedwire, right? That's a settlement system that the Federal Reserve runs between banks. And that settles trillions and trillions of dollars. And it settles, relatively few transactions, but they're very large, millions of dollars each on average. And so when banks are communicating value with each other through things like Visa or MasterCard or PayPal, all they're basically doing is updating their internal ledgers. And then they later settle on one of these bigger transactions. They batch a lot of these small transactions together and then settle it. And what Bitcoin essentially is a decentralized Fedwire. It's a decentralized settlement network that also has its own units attached. So even Fedwire is running on top of what is essentially a fiat system, or it's near the foundation of this fiat system, whereas Bitcoin is both like a digital gold, but that also has its own settlement rail. So it's a decentralized Fedwire, it's a digital gold combined. And then on top of that, you can build all sorts of other layers. You can build federated side chains that move tokens around quickly and more anonymously. You can build the Lightning Network, which is basically a channel-based system of more quick payment methods. And so you can build this whole stack that basically replicates what we have in the financial system, but in a decentralized and sound money way.
Hey, so I'm down here at BitBlockBoom, and what energy, what a lot of fun. It's all Bitcoiners. and just good people. That's the one thing that all my interactions that I've had with people, you can tell you're just dealing with a culture of people that just want to make the world a better place.
So if you want to come to a Bitcoiner conference, not a crypto conference or a shitcoiner conference, if you want to come to a Bitcoin conference, you would come to BitBlockBoom.